What happened is Israel bombed Beirut in northern Lebanon. And that was a red line that Iran had set up. And so Iran retaliated by sending in 5 waves of 3 missiles, 15 missiles. And some things were hit, but it was more a warning shot. And now we need to see what happens next. If Israel retaliates against Iran, then Iran is going to... Then the war is on completely 100% again. And Iran is going to start bombing everywhere again, just like it did before the ceasefire.
And then there's been reports on the Israeli side that the call just finished between Trump and Netanyahu. Trump told him not to attack. And Netanyahu told him, I want to attack a very heavy attack, a very strong attack against Iran.
Yes, Israel was asking permission to go after Iran's energy sector. And then we're all fucked if that happens, because Iran retaliates and no oil from the Gulf for years. So, of course, Trump said no to that. He said no to retaliation in general. But what's going to happen next?
Iran. Trump said, look, you could do what you like, but I will not support you, and I prefer you wait a few days. Let's see if we can get a deal first. So that call just happened, and a lot of Israeli media saying that this is what happened in the call. According to Israeli media, they're showing a rift between the two. Now, that fabricated is...
Yes, I think Trump is trying to bully Netanyahu, but Netanyahu has ways to bully Trump back, because all these politicians that have been bought off by Israel can put pressure on Trump. All these officials that are pro-Israel in the United States, inside his administration, can put pressure on him. So they both have ways of pressuring each other. Whose will come out on top? We'll see whether Israel retaliates against Iran or not.
No, I don't know. And just now, complete out of nowhere, Israel has halted all humanitarian aid to Gaza until further notice.
That is politics, and it's also war. I mean, war is politics by other means. And, yeah. Some people think Trump is owned by Israel. I think he was tricked into this war, and he's stuck with Israel because he's claiming victory. He needs to claim victory in this Iran war. And how can he get mad at Netanyahu publicly if he's about a war he's won?
So yeah, that just happened. The people that are suffering the most end up suffering even more now, when they have nothing to do with this war at the moment. So Iran has sent Israel a message as well, saying through third party, saying they're not going to attack again, and they won't attack.
Oh, yeah, that's... The anti-Iran propaganda goes back decades, and anti-Muslim propaganda too, to a big extent, and yeah, it's a mess. Then you have the immigration angle on that, in that some of the Muslims coming into the EU aren't... Not all Muslims are the same, and some... If you come from a third world country like Afghanistan, it's maybe different from, I don't know, Malaysia or Pakistan. They're different... And so the Muslims that are arriving in Europe are, I think, giving Muslims in general a bad name in some cases, especially with the UK grooming gang stuff.
As long as Israel doesn't attack. So Iran wants to make its position very clear, but does not want a full-blown war if this report is true. This is according to Israeli media. They could be lying. I don't know if Iranian media reported the same thing. I wouldn't expect them to. But the halting of all humanitarian aid to Gaza, like, come on.
I think what we see in this is that Gaza continues to be the retributional punching bag to whenever...
Oh, yeah. They just mentioned that they're stopping all aid to Gaza. And that's just terrible. It's not as if things were good there to start with. During that period of starvation last year, looks like they're doing they're going to start another round of starvation in Gaza.
Israel is struck, or Israel has...
It's amazing how little Israel cares about its public opinion in the outside world. Yeah, and this is due to decades where Israel could do whatever the fuck it wanted to the Palestinians, and the media wouldn't report it, and that was the end of it, because if the media didn't report it, no one found out. Now we have Free X, we have a robust alternative media, and people know, people find out. But it hasn't recognized that reality yet. It's still operating like it can do whatever it wants. And that's destroying Israel's public image.
Has caused conditions for retaliation, that if they cannot immediately retaliate, such as conducting massive strikes against Beirut, that they take every opportunity that they can. And we've seen this since when I was in Gaza with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. It was the height of Operation Gideon's Chariots and the bombing campaign in South and Central Gaza. And these
I'm amazed you're still alive. Well, it's not like everyone died, but still, that was not a safe place to be.
strikes continued nonstop every day and every night, to the point to where at times we, the GHF and U.S. contractors driving into Gaza, did so under bombardment. So when you look at how
All right, a U.S. contractor might be the only, let's say, a target that Israel goes out of its way not to hit. Killing American contractors, that looks bad for Israel. I mean, UN, sure, journalists, sure, but U.S. contractors, they might actually, say, oh, not target them.
Israel often responds and how they have always acted in Gaza. This is par for the course. Now, though the strike by Israel against the Kafir Tebit region, it's about 4 miles north of the Litani River. So when you consider overall geographically, it's quite an incursion further north of the Litani and into the Dakhia suburbs of Beirut. This is something that Iran has clearly said. That is a red line. There is no such thing when it comes to red lines or geopolitical disorder or a road to war where there's just a little strike.
Thing is, if Iran hasn't responded to this attack, Israel would have just bombed another building. This time, maybe 2 buildings. And they would have just continued pushing. You need to enforce your red lines or you don't have them at all.
Or just a little bit. Israel has tested the red line. They pushed the envelope. There was a response. And as you and I discussed over the past week in many discussions, is that this now puts Donald Trump in that very position that you and I have discussed. What now does the U.S. do? And remember, we talked.
And this will be interesting because back and forth about Tucker calling Trump a slave to Israel, and others saying, well, I think he was tricked into this war. We're going to find out just how much influence Netanyahu has over Trump, because Netanyahu needs to hit Iran politically. Him not hitting Iran politically would be devastating for him back in Israel, for his popularity. I mean, Israel launches 15 missiles at Israel and Israel doesn't respond? No, Israel's the one who does disproportionate force. That politician in Israel that said, for every drone Hezbollah uses against us, we should level 1 building in Beirut. Of course, that's insane, but that's in general the thinking of Israel. Bomb them first, just to be sure. We're not sure if they have evil intention, but they have a weapon, so just better if they don't have a weapon. Let's just bomb them first. That's what they did with Syria after the fall of Assad. Just destroy all their military equipment, bomb the hell out of them. Syria didn't do anything to provoke it, but what the fuck? They did it anyway.
About the U.S. can simply assist in passive defense. The United States can get involved actively in terms of active defense and strikes. Or Donald Trump may sit this one out and say, you're on your own. We're not abandoning you overall. But in terms of Lebanon and in Iran, you're on your own.
Yep. Problem with that is I don't think Iran will let that happen. If Israel attacks Iran, it's not just going to hit back against Iran. It's going to hit back against Gulf states too. Especially if Israel, for example, hits Iran's energy infrastructure, then it's going to target energy infrastructure throughout the Gulf. Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, United Emirates, oil infrastructure everywhere here, except Oman. I think that they're on good terms with Oman. They'll be spared.
It looks like Donald Trump has taken the option, at least for now, of, hey, you're on your own. I told you not to do this. You did it anyway. Iran has said they would respond. They have. We now have this escalation ongoing. How do we diffuse it? And as much as Donald Trump wants to continue to talk about peace negotiations or an agreement or a deal, Iran is who suspended these talks directly because of escalation and ground combat in Lebanon. And now a red line has been crossed. So Donald Trump's hopes to try to deliver some type of attenuation or step down from this by Monday or Tuesday is not going to happen. And I am not a fearmonger.
The thing is, Trump said he was going to sign a deal either Monday or Tuesday. But this deal has been on the table over like 3 weeks now. Or is it 4? It's been so long. And every time he's close to signing, he decides not to. He chickens out because this is an agreement in Iran's favor. And it will look bad for him politically. And so maybe this time it really was going to be signed, but I'm skeptical. Just because the two positions, the American position and the Iran position, are still so far apart. I've heard that they've worked out some deals so that they can unfreeze money without officially unfreezing money, and instead of charging a toll, they'll charge an environmental fee, nonsense like that. But still, in any case, now that deal being signed Monday or Tuesday is less likely.
I simply look at the reality of the situation. I take my experience of over a quarter of a century in low intensity and asymmetric and high intensity warfare, and I look at what is the next logical step. If you ask me, did we know that Israel was going to bomb Beirut? We knew that. Israel Katz said they were going to do that. Didn't necessarily know when, but they have. What's coming next? I don't think Israel is done here. And I don't think Iran's retaliation is done if there's continued strikes. So we are now in another level of escalatory territory that is out of Donald Trump's control, which is why we see scrambling in the region right now. Pakistan, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, other nations trying to come in to join Pakistan in discussions between Iran. Just today, as we talked about yesterday, but then released today, Pakistan's Interior Minister Moshe Naqvi met with the representative highest ranks of Iran with a message from the Pakistani military field marshal to say, here's this delivered message. We still don't know what that message was.
Oh, yeah, that's something that happened yesterday. A very important message was delivered to Iran, and we still don't have any idea what that was from Pakistan to Iran. But that happened.
So Mushtaq Khamenei, directly to the Supreme Leader.
Directly.
Israeli officials told Israel Hayom, quote, "We will respond to Iran's attack even if it does not happen in the immediate time."
Also, there's a high chance that Iran already has a nuke. That's one thing that's also been leaked out and in last week. And given Trump's change in behavior and Iran's renewed confidence, I think it might be true.
Frame. That's a positive development. And Netanyahu is chairing a security cabinet meeting with Katz, Zamir, the chief of staff, and the rest of the security establishment.
And let's not forget, Mario, layer that with just days ago in a strike north of the Litani River, the strikes against the Hia Beirut, which is a suburb of Beirut, were the strikes that happened just over the last 24 hours. The strike in Kafir Tebnit, which is north of the Litani River, that was the strike that Israel conducted against the Lebanese army, killing Brigadier General Samer Sabra and 2 other military officers that were with him. And simultaneous to that, when Donald Trump said, I'm talking with leaders at Hezbollah, the Hezbollah leadership for the Hezbollah Southern Command, Naim Qassem, comes back and says, there's no talks. That's fake, and it's futile until this offensive stops. So the leader of Hezbollah has spoken. There's no talks. Senior leadership in the Lebanese army.
Yeah, I think the only way for Hezbollah to agree to a ceasefire is for Israel to withdraw from Lebanon, to get the fuck out of this territory, stop leveling villages, and give up its plan to build settlements inside Lebanon.
Has been assassinated. And now Israel has struck.
What was this?
Till this offensive stops. So the leader of Hezbollah has spoken. There's no talks. Senior leadership in the Lebanese army has been assassinated.
Yes, that. I thought it was maybe Hezbollah leadership to be assassinated. No. But yes, Israel assassinating senior leadership in the Lebanese army. Wonder what that was about.
And now Israel has struck Dahia, Hezbollah headquarters in the southern suburbs of Beirut. All of this happening in the last 24, essentially 24 hours. So where's the off-ramp? What discussions may bring this down when the tensions are so high and we still have, there's still the U.S. and...
Yeah, Israel is definitely trying to sabotage any type of peace deal. This attacks on Beirut and wanting to retaliate and asking for permission to hit Iran's energy infrastructure. Crazy.
And Iran are still exchanging missiles and firing at each other in the Strait of Hormuz. So that's escalating. And here's another thing that a lot of people missed in today's morning news as they were having their coffee and maybe watching Fox and Friends on Sunday, was that the United States has now announced that they recently conducted a test off of the USS Rhode Island, which is another Ohio-class nuclear submarine. They conducted a test of a Trident II D5 missile, not armed with a nuclear warhead, but they tested it off the coast of Florida in this big exercise that's happening right now on the U.S. East Coast called Demonstration and
Yeah, if you're testing a missile near the United States, you don't want to use nuclear warhead.
Takedown Operation 29. They do it every year. It's called DASO. DASO 29. They're looking at how do we achieve victory forward in the year 29. And they launched a Trident II D5 nuclear capable missile. The USS Alaska, another Ohio-class nuclear submarine, is still sitting in the Mediterranean, somewhere off the coast of Cyprus, loaded with 20 nuclear-armed Triton II D5 nuclear missiles. So when you consider the tensions and you consider the options, this is not looking good.
Yep.
Sorry, it took me a while to unmute. There's a valid point being made by the Israelis here to Ynet, Israeli news outlet. They said Israel fears that preventing a response to Iran could undermine its deterrence capability and send a message that it is no longer able to act in self-defense. To be honest, that is a valid.
That is a valid. Well, if they hadn't bombed Beirut, Iran wouldn't have sent those 15 missiles, and it wouldn't be in this position of maybe having their deterrence weakened. So this is entirely self-inflicted. So I have no sympathy for this argument.
Valid point. There's never been a time where Israel would not retaliate if it was attacked directly. That would have been unimaginable a few months or years ago. Yet it is in a position right now where it may not be able to retaliate the 5 ways of ballistic missiles fired by Iran. So I think that would be significant.
It would be devastating to Netanyahu politically. That's why I say this right now is a real test of where the power lies between Trump and Netanyahu. Either Trump gets completely fucked and Netanyahu retaliates against Iran, the war gets started again, and everything Trump has been working for turns to dust, and we're in Iran War 2.0, or Netanyahu gets fucked, and he has to take this attack from Iran without retaliating, and his opponents at home just roast him alive, and his popularity plummets.
And I agree with the point they're making here. Do you know if Israel has enough refueling aircraft to conduct a large strike, or they need the Americans? How big is their fleet of refueling aircraft? Not sure if you know.
So Israel, the Israel Defense Force Air Forces, the IDF-AF, do maintain a robust Stratotanker fleet of their own. There's U.S. Air Force American Stratotankers, KC-35 Charlies sitting on the deck and Ben Gavir. There are also quite amply many Israeli flagged and owned Stratotankers. So can they do it? Yes. And in fact, we now know, or we've known, but we know that even though against the restrictions of foreign military sales, Israel has made the F-35 Lightning II into the F-35I with the advancements of a longer duration refuel capability. So do they have the capability to do it on their own? They do. And to your point, in terms of rationality, or if you look at things from an objective sense of side A, side B, or one side and the other, one side conducts a strike that crosses a red line, the other retaliates. Once the other retaliates, does the other have kind of an onus politically and diplomatically to respond, whether it leads to limited military objective, but just the response? I think Israel's on the hook for this, because is it now known that Israel has lost a lot of capability militarily in terms of their ability to strike, counterstrike, to hit Israel or to hit Iran hard?
Iran was doing damage during the live phase of the war. Its missiles were hitting targets, although it was all censored and no one was allowed to report on it. So, but they undoubtedly still have the capacity to hit Iran.
That is certainly a perception. So will Israel respond to then set that record straight of we can and will respond? There's a great book. It's called, it's based on Israeli doctrine over the years. It's called Rise and Kill First. I've read that book many a time, which is why I wouldn't say that I'm an expert in, but I kind of understand Israel's mindset in terms of defense, strike, and retaliation. That if you look at their doctrine, they will certainly respond with or without the United States.
That's exactly what I mean. That's their doctrine. They will respond. The Israeli media announced that they would respond. Netanyahu announced they would respond. And so if they don't respond, the only reason for that is because Trump intervened and successfully stopped them from doing so. And it would show that Netanyahu is Trump's bitch at the end of the day. Of course, it makes Trump look bad for being tricked into this war. But at least that would be a little bit better than if Israel just goes ahead and bombs Iran and we're back in the war.
That's interesting. That was my next question. By the way, Israel only has, you're right, they have 7 operational refueling tankers. The US right now in the region has about 30.
That's right.
But worldwide, they have
Israel is the only
500.
country that the United States has sold the
500 refueling tankers. Well, you have those bases around the world, and fighter jets, their range is limited. They need those tankers to extend the range of U.S. aircraft, so it's not surprising. And tanker jets aren't the most expensive planes to make compared to others.
KC-35 Charlie variant to Israel. They have modified it into their own. Only nation that we have given it to.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise,
Yes,
surprise.
surprise.
Nation
Can you go back to the
considers
doctrine
a
that's
threat.
Trump just said the ceasefire we have is a great thing. This is a different Trump to what we had 2 months ago. Do you remember that Trump?
Yes, that was threatening to wipe out the Iranian civilization. Well, yes, I think Trump's tone is because he's been told that Iran might have nukes. I'm a believer of that. The change of his tones corresponds exactly to the message being relayed to Rubio that Iran has nukes. So, and Iran has been, since that time, since we got the report that Iran has nukes, Iran was aggressive and sent this wave of missiles at Kuwait and was it Qatar or Bahrain? Yeah, it was biggest wave since the ceasefire. And now attack on Israel, only one since the ceasefire began. Yeah, you have an emboldened Iran and a more timid Trump. And this all happened after Iran supposedly relayed the news that it has nukes. So I'm in the 75-80% chance that Iran has a nuke now.
The Trump that continued to say that he would wipe any nation, fill in the blank, into the Stone Age or into oblivion. Even I think it was 2 days ago. I think
He was saying that
in the interview that he was with in one of the Mideastern states. There was a John Deere tractor behind him. He got all pissed off and walked out of the interview.
We were just playing it, in the video earlier.
In that point of the interview, in the beginning, before he walked out, he even said that Iran is strong and prideful, and this is not an enemy to underestimate. So the tone.
Can you believe hearing that after all these words at the beginning of the war that they're bastards, evil bastards? Remember his tweet to making them open the Strait of Hormuz? Open the Strait of Hormuz, you evil fucking bastards. That was also Trump.
Tone is much different, and I think there's something that Donald Trump knows, either what's been shared with him by Beijing or Moscow, or both, and that what we now see with what Israel may have and what Israel may be willing to do to escalate to the next level, these strikes going on in Beirut, I think Israel has given every indication to Donald Trump, either because they have his phone bugged, they cut in on his phone call recently and said, by the way, we're not going to let you do that. Do they intend to continue to escalate against Beirut? They absolutely do. Will they respond to this latest Iranian counterstrike? They will. Can Donald Trump stop that? He cannot. Donald Trump knows the situation he's in. And Donald Trump knows that decision space is collapsing around him to where...
Okay, so according to Anthony Aguilar, Netanyahu is going to strike Iran and the war is back on. I am not 100% on this yet. We'll have to wait and see. I think there is a very high chance because, again, Netanyahu needs to politically do this. He's finished if he doesn't. So he needs to attack Iran. The only reason he wouldn't is because Trump puts some type of extreme pressure on Netanyahu not to attack.
He will have to. Right now, he's kind of in passive mode. He's kind of in, I'll just kind of like, where are the leaves going to fall? And he's looking at, do I want to jump in with Israel and be offensive? I don't know. I've told him I wouldn't. Do I want to jump in and be...
No, Trump is absolutely fucked in this war. Not only does he have no good options at all, he's now been told that Iran actually has a nuke. Sorry. Which, if that's confirmed, is nearly the end of him politically because he's been harping on the nuclear issue for weeks, for months, for even years. And after all that, after attacking Iran, after disrupting the oil markets, if exactly the thing he was trying to prevent happens because of his decision to bomb Iran's supreme leader, oh my God, will that be bad for Trump politically?
Defensive or just want to sit it out. So we'll see.
But Iran did say they'll drag the US back into it. If Israel strikes, Zionist and American targets of the region will be attacked. So Trump is in a tricky position where even if he stays out of it, Iran will drag him back in.
Well, so I think even if you have,
And rightly so. Israel can only strike Iran because of the unlimited military support we've been providing Israel for years.
so Iran's statement of dragging the U.S. back in, absolutely, Iran has the control to target U.S. forces and to bring the U.S. back in terms of punching. But whether or not the United States decides to fight back at this point, is the United States, I wouldn't say willing, but strategically, are there options on the table? They've probably been briefed and communicated to the U.S. Central Command Commander and the U.S. Navy Fifth Fleet and U.S. Army Central and U.S. Marine Central and forces in the region that if there are strikes, take to the bunkers, hunker down, don't respond. We've seen that before. That's happened before. And in fact, it's happened at Ali al-Salim, where strikes have occurred and Donald Trump said, okay, we'll take the hit.
Which country is that?
Kuwait.
Kuwait, yeah.
Ali al-Salim Air Base in Kuwait is where...
yeah, there are two bases. There's the Camp 1 as well, the Camp whatever.
Camp Arif John.
Yeah.
Camp Arif
and
John.
the Fifth Fleet headquarters.
Oh, I'll just mention this. I heard another commentator mention it, and I thought it was really interesting. Apparently, Iran, in this latest round of missile strikes against Kuwait and Bahrain, managed to hit something critical in Bahrain. Presumably another one of those high-end radar systems that's like worth over $1 billion. That's irreplaceable. So, yeah, this war is not going well for the United States.
Bahrain, all of them were
In
attacked.
Bahrain, that's right. So that's right. So the Fifth Fleet, which is also U.S. Navy Central, is in Bahrain, in Manaba, and then you've got Army Central Command, the Army Central component, sitting there in Camp Arif John, Kuwait. So two strategic targets in terms of legitimate military targets. But then where Ali al-Salim comes in is that is an operational airbase. Take an airbase in the United States, and it's pretty much that. There's a Chili's, there's a shopping
We saw
mall.
it together last time. Yeah, we saw the photo of Chile.
Right. So this is a little America in Kuwait at Ali al-Salim Air Base, where there's jets and tankers and C-17s and C-130s, and it's where I believe the United States has sitting there in a bunker the Dark Eagle. I think it's there.
Ooh, where's
The one operational supersonic missile that the United States has. They've never tested this class of missile, but they have it. One of them assembled in Kuwait for possible use. And it's not like one missile can make any difference in a war with Iran.
I think Iran is
It's
just
not
too
a
big for
the
this
Dark
one.
Eagle is not a game changer.
Yeah,
but we
exactly.
do
That's
know-
what I've been told.
In terms of its effect, it's not a game changer.
The Dark
In terms of its effect on Iran. But it could be some good PR to successfully test the first U.S. hypersonic missile with a strike on Iran. It would be good optics for Trump, if make him look good for a day.
And just for the audience, the Dark Eagle is one of the very few, about 6 or 10 hypersonic ballistic missiles that the US has, correct?
That's right. It's and again, when it comes in, when we're talking about the hypersonic game, the U.S. is strategically behind Russia.
Yeah, Russia, China, and Iran have hypersonic missiles and have tested hypersonic missiles.
China, and even Iran. Iran has hypersonics that can reach all the way into Western Europe. They can strike. They have them. The Fatah 110 can hit all the way to Cyprus. The Kandar 4 and 5 variants can reach all the way to France if they wanted to. Everything in the region is under that umbrella of potential strike. So when you consider
They sent one missile all the way to the naval base off south of India here. They sent two missiles, neither hit. One failed and the other one was shot down. But it's the British base, British Indian Ocean Territory, the British base in here that U.S. fleet is using to refuel and restock during this war with Iran.
hypersonic game, the U.S. is like revealing their Cadillac when everybody else on the track is driving Ferraris and Porsche, and they're like, yeah, well,
Oh wow, you think even the Iranian one could be better than the American Dark
Oh, it
Eagle?
is. There's no question.
Really?
In these prototypes that DARPA has in development, where they have very likely released their first prototype under threshold objective, does it work? And
the range. The range of Iranian ballistic and cruise missiles. And this one here, I guess he might be exaggerating by being able to hit France, but they can hit Italy, most of Italy, and maybe they have one more that's more advanced. They have a lot of different missile types and a lot of ranges. And see, one of them has this little island down here is in their range.
and will it at least get to where it's going to at least Mach 3? The goal is Mach 5. Yeah, because the US has got to get into the hypersonic game. We have to show that we have a capability, because the only other thing that we have short of the Moabs, in between a Moab or a tactical nuke, are hypersonics, and we're not playing on that field yet.
I'd say the reason for this is that what has the U.S. military done mostly? We've gone after third world countries, like rump states like Iraq or Syria or Libya. And for that, using a hypersonic missile against Syria is a waste, or against Iraq or Libya. I mean, just the cheapest precision missile is what you want to use. Hypersonic missiles, what they're good for is penetrating air defenses. They're virtually unstoppable. And so if you're going up against someone like, say, China or Russia, then hypersonic missiles are useful because they can penetrate any air defense and strike targets with a lot of force deep inside Russia or China.
Why?
So
Why?
are
I never get a preference.
hypersonic
Why?
arsenal better than the Dark Eagle? Absolutely, absolutely, yes, without a doubt.
But why?
I'd answer this very easily. Several generations. Like, the first generation of a type of missile is going to be the less advanced. And like I was showing in that graphic on Iranian missiles, they've been developing them for years. They come up with one, and then they come out with a better one. Shaib 1, Shaib 2. See, is Shaib 1 range 300 kilometers, Shaib 2 500 kilometers, and that's so there's more iterations, whereas we are just on version 1. So they've been at it longer, and of course their hypersonic missiles will be better.
Well, so why is that? Because the United States, this goes back to why we're at war with Iran in the first place, right? If you go back to last year's NDAA, the current NDAA, which then derives the national military strategy from the national defense strategy, and you look at how the Department of Defense was funded, our number one enemy, the pacing threat, was China. The acute threat is Russia. The enduring threat is North Korea. And a threat to keep an eye on, but we kind of got it under control. They're not really pursuing a nuke. Was Iran? Yet that's the enemy we chose to fight, and in doing so, we weren't ready for that fight. We weren't planning on that fight. We were planning on defending Taiwan and fighting against China.
The United States, or at least during Biden, was all in on the Ukraine war. I mean, it's changed with Trump's election, but back then it was both Europe and United States together, both backing Ukraine. And Trump backed off of Ukraine, leaving that to Europe. And that freed him up so that Israel convinced him to go after Iran. Wonderful idea, wasn't it?
Where we put a lot of money into containerized munitions, a lot of buildup on the Palawan island chain in the Philippines. We put a lot of money into our already existing exquisite capability of ground to air, sea to shore to sea type munitions. And we just we got behind it.
We put a lot of money into the weapons that are useful for bombing third world countries. That's where we've been putting our money. And Iran, even against Iran, the lack of a hypersonic missile hasn't hurt us. Iran has no anti-missile defense to speak of. Yes, they might have an anti-air. They might be able to shoot down our jets. But in terms of shooting down the missiles we fire, they have nothing. So why bother with hypersonic missiles that are far more expensive when you can use a non-hypersonic missile that'll hit its target and do the same job? It doesn't make sense. Whereas on Iran's side, if you're trying to strike a nation like Israel, which is a really advanced air defense, hypersonics excel because that's what they're for. Penetrating what is probably the most advanced air defense in the world, is Israel's air defense. That's the type of job hypersonic missiles are made for.
In the hypersonic game, I'm telling you, this is the guns of August. The guns of August. In the 30 days leading up to World War I, when we saw how United States and how other allies were prepared, United States didn't enter World War I in the beginning. And when we did enter, we were far behind in technology. When we went to World War I, we still had horse cavalry. While other armies like France and Germany were already introducing tanks and mechanized warfare. And it hit us in the face like, oh, we got to catch up. And we had this huge revolution of military affairs where we advanced our weapons and we advanced our field tactics and we advanced our systems. Didn't really...
On that note, United States, its army is not at all prepared for the era of drone warfare, for FPV drones. And if we go in on the ground anywhere, we'll learn this lesson the hard way. It'll be a rude awakening. And we'll have to adapt to that because, yeah, we don't have, for example, drone operators integrated with every unit of our army, like the Russians have changed. They now have that. Every army unit has drone operators in it because they're so essential.
Get there until the end of World War I, where we proved to be of value to the Allies, other than just the number of Americans we can put into the meat grinder. Same thing holds true. We have been looking at a peer threat, China, Russia, North Korea, thinking that the asymmetric threat days of the global war on terror were over. And what is kicking our butt? A near peer threat. Iran is a near peer threat, as we've now seen, with a robust asymmetric warfare capability. It's like if Al-Qaeda grew into a conventional force where they had a conventional army and an asymmetric arm. That's what Iran is. And we were not prepared for that.
Yeah, not only do you have Iran, you have the Iraqi militias that are allied with Iran, you have Hezbollah, and you have the Houthis. So you have this, non-traditional military wing, and you have definitely the traditional military inside of Iran.
So,
but if the threat was Russia and China, I don't understand why would the US not develop hypersonic missiles for these two threats. It just makes sense. If China and Russia are developing them, they cannot be intercepted.
Well, just look at the operations the US has been involved in the last 20 years. There's Somalia against Yemen, against Libya. They were trying to get rid of Assad in Syria, the Iraq. And it's all of these were places where hypersonic missiles were not necessary. We have been going after third world countries because of our role as a hegemon of the world. We are the globe. We made ourselves or call ourselves the global policemen, and and that involves going in and bombing third world countries around the world, at least according to us. And so that is why we've been spending our money on what we do, and that is mainly bombing third world countries. Oh, Afghanistan too, of course. Yeah, why do you need a hypersonic missile to bomb Afghanistan? You don't.
Now they could travel,
because the hypersonics very expensive.
Yes.
Very limited in terms of how you can fire them and what you have to defend to have them. Whereas you look at a fight in Indo-PACOM, Indo-Pacific Area of Responsibility, within this.
Hypersonic missiles are big, and they have been launched from specific platforms. And they're expensive. There's no reason to use one if you can use a regular missile that'll be able to hit the target. Unless you're going up against Israel with its air defenses and you want to...
Master Sergeant Bodoy.
Hi, Bodoy. You're from the Philippines. How are fuel prices over there? I can't imagine it's that great. And nice to have you here, by the way. We're covering the situation in Iran because it's another exciting day over there with Iran sending missiles at Israel. And we're now going to find out if Netanyahu is Trump's bitch or if Trump is Netanyahu's bitch. It's going to be the clearest time to find that out. Is Israel going to strike back at Iran? The answer to that question will give us the answer to who's the true boss. Well, it's not, again, nice to have you here. Bodoy, I'm hoping I'm saying that right. Badoy? Okay, Badoy sounds better. I'm going to get back to the video for now.
Second island chain. You got your first island chain, pretty much if you drew a line from midway up, that's your second island chain. And then you have your, or your first island chain. Then you have your second island chain, the inner islands, basically from the Marshalls to the Solomons up to the Philippines and Okinawa. That's the second island chain. In there, our strategy was never to strike deep into China. It would have been defense of Taiwan and then striking Chinese assets along the coast. Much more effective and devastating to use prisms, ATACMs, JASSMs, direct strikes with F-35s and F-22s. A lot more effective for your worth your dollar. And it was always
it's a lot harder for air defenses to guard coastal areas because it's hard to put like dedicated anti-air defenses out in the water. So you have to keep it inland. If your target is right along the coast, that means the air defenses need to be further back. It's one reason Russia was struggling against that drone attack on St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg up here. The drones came in from over the water, and you can't have air defenses over the water.
Defense of Taiwan against a peer threat or near peer. I think China's more of a peer threat, but the U.S. still characterizes it.
I dislike Netanyahu. For a multiple reasons. Sorry about that. Not just the standard ones. One of my biggest gripes against him is his role in funding ISIS, which genocided Christians in Syria. And that was 1 million Christians. Vanished. And that is worse than what's happened in Gaza. It happened over a decade ago and received far less coverage. Yeah. Yeah, I really have to dig to know the truth. Yes. Oh, another thing big thing I have against Netanyahu is that he funded Hamas between 2012 and 2022. $1.3 billion. Qatar gave the money, and then he handed it over to Hamas. And he did this. It was his strategy to keep the Palestinians divided, and because he knew Hamas would never agree to peace. And yeah, it's a mess over there.
Them as a near peer, because we're never going to say that someone's our peer, but they're getting there, if not there already. Russia, it was never the tactic to go deep strikes into Russia, but to fight them along the lines of the NATO front. In the Cold War, it was the Fulda Gap. Everybody that went to Germany, everybody that went to Europe to train, the Fulda Gap, the Fulda Gap, the Fulda Gap. It was the big to-do about how to defend Europe against Russia. Well, that line has since extended since NATO has expanded up to the lines of Moscow. So now any fight that we might be fighting in Poland or Ukraine wouldn't be deep strikes. It would be along the front. So why put your money and resources into a deep strike capability that you could lose very easily? Because again, a hypersonic, once it's launched, is near impossible to stop. So therefore, you target the launcher. Now you just made your home base a target for all your other launch capability, because the Erector launch set that fires the Dark Eagle is also used to fire your other capabilities. So now you're making your capabilities a target for that, where you don't really get a lot of punch unless you have a lot of them. And we weren't ready. We were not ready for that.
I will say again, I think the main reason we have fallen behind on hypersonic missiles is that we've been mainly fighting third world countries over the last few decades. And it makes sense to spend your money on the type of enemy you fight and technologies that help you there. You don't need hypersonic missiles to bomb Afghanistan.
It wasn't until this year's NDAA where we have a robust hypersonic development program to the point of actual prototyping, not just R&D, not just a pretty little model at the missile show, but a real thing. And we're seeing that those are just coming out of DARPA right now. So we are behind the hypersonic game? And does Russia, China, and Iran have more hypersonics that have further range and are tested to be proven, like the Fatah 110?
Just the fact that they have different versions. They developed one hypersonic missile and then they developed more of them. Just that fact alone should tell you that it's going to be more advanced than anything the United States have, since we're still on the first prototype, basically.
Or the Katab 4 and 5. They've been proven. We haven't even proven ours yet.
Yeah.
So, Dark Eagle sitting in...
We're basically still in the prototype stage. What we're going to be firing, if we fire it at Iran, that Dark Eagle is really a prototype. And boy, I hope it works, because otherwise that would just be one other humiliation for Trump.
Wait, not scary. But it gives Donald Trump an escalatory in-between between we've used everything we have nukes on board, they're sitting in the Mediterranean, don't make me use this thing. And, it's like when you have a kid that's not listening and you say, I'm going to count to 3.
Yeah, the fact that Trump has this nuclear submarine within range of firing at Iran and is still there. It's why I am, on some level, happy that Iran maybe, or at least telling the world it has a nuke. Of course, it'd be better if both Israel and Iran didn't have a nuke, but we don't live in that world. I hope to stop the war between Ukrainians and Russians peacefully. I hope so too. Though, I hate to say it, a lot of the damage has been done. I mean, the Ukrainians have grabbed every able-bodied man off the street that they could. And they've been shipped off to war. And a huge number of them have died. It's going to be devastating for the Ukraine long run. And, yeah, also, Russia's completely fed up, and it's taking off the gloves in the way it's going after Kiev now, and warned foreign diplomats to get out. I think you're going to see a resolution to that war fairly soon, but when one side wins, you get peace at the end too. It may not be the peace you wanted, but you do get a peace. So it's better than perpetual war in any case. Genocide of Russians and Ukrainians has been pretty successful. More on the Ukrainian side than the Russians. Yes, the Russians have had losses, but the one reason I know that the losses aren't catastrophic on the Russian side, despite what all the media has been saying all these years, is because so far, Russia had never taken the gloves off. It had never gone after Kiev. It had never bombed bridges, for example. If it was really losing as many soldiers as the West claims, Russia would have started becoming a lot more extreme in the way they conduct the war. The fact that they have gone patiently, slowly taking territory, I think they took that approach specifically to limit their losses, and it was successful. And that's why it's only now they're escalating against Kiev, and that's because of the long-range drone strikes into Russia and the anger domestically over that. That's the reason they're escalating, not a huge amount of deaths. Whereas on the Ukrainian side, the way they fight the war, never withdrawing, even if there's surrounded on all sides or about to be surrounded, they never retreat. So they end up trapped in so many different places, and that's hopefully a lot of them surrender. But if they don't, they get annihilated.
And then what? Okay, you count to 3 and the kid's still doing. Okay, then what? Well, you got to do something. And Donald Trump doesn't have the capability to take off the belt. He's got to have something in between. And that would be a hypersonic to show, hey, we're in the hypersonic game too. Where better to use it? Iran.
It would be a propaganda coup, if anything else, because we only have one of them, I think, there, or maybe 3 at maximum. It depends. And 3 is not, even if we have all 3 there, it's not going to change anything. So, yeah, might make Trump look good for a day.
Can't go slinging them into China.
Can you go back to the doctrine, the Israeli doctrine? Why are you so confident they'll retaliate, and how soon do you think they'll?
Mario, where have you been? Living under a rock? Just look at how Israel has conducted itself since way back, like the first Intifada, or forget how it says. And yeah, they get hit, they hit back 5 times as hard, 7 times as hard. It's what they always do. Look at Gaza. The Hamas goes in and they kill 1,000 Israelis, and then Israel completely levels all of Gaza and kills 30 times more Palestinians than were killed. Israelis were killed. Yeah, that is Israel. huge, always disproportional retaliation to any attack on Israel. That's how they always conduct things. That's why Gaza is in ruins.
Retaliate. How will they take the negotiations into consideration? Because Trump asked them to at least wait a few days to see how those negotiations go. And if in 3-4 days there is a deal between Iran and the US, then would we not see retaliation? Or retaliation is
regardless of what may be coming in talks. Right now, as it stands, regardless of what remember, Israel knows if Donald Trump is really in negotiations or not. We know that. We know that they know.
There's a real chance that Trump is just twiddling his thumbs because he has no good options. Escalation is a disaster. Signing a deal and capitulating to Iran is a disaster for him politically. So I think that's what's been going on. Yes, he has a deal that he can sign that basically is him capitulating to Iran in that deal. And he doesn't want to sign that because it's political suicide. So he's basically stalling, twiddling his thumbs, bombing one or two places in the Ketchen Island in Iran. And he's just trapped. And he's just hoping something miraculously comes in and saves him. But it won't happen.
So Israel knows whether or not there's any real peace talks. According to Iran, there's no peace talks. There's some diplomacy happening between Pakistan to Iran. But again, we don't...
Larry Johnson, who broke the story about Iran having a nuke, says he actually was confident there was going to be a deal this time, that there was something being worked out. I'm still skeptical, but we'll see.
Don't know what that message is. The Field Marshal of Pakistan, when he deployed, or when Pakistan writ large.
And we still don't know what the very important message Pakistan sent to the Supreme Leader of Iran is. So many unknown variables.
Deployed Interior Minister Mohsen Naqvi to go to Iran and meet with the Ayatollah and meet with the senior leadership to carry the message. We still don't know what that message is, who it's from. I don't think it's from Pakistan. I think Pakistan's just the courier or the interlocutor. Is it something from Trump? And he's telling Bibi, hey, I got something on the table? Well, if he does, Netanyahu's already going to know about that because Israel's spying on him. We know that. That's
another thing that's happened lately is there's been a report, warning issued by the intelligence community in the United States that Israel is now a threat in terms of they're spying especially hard on this administration to try to figure out what Trump is doing. And at the same time as there's this warning about Israel being a threat in terms of intelligence, you have Congress trying to pass a bill that would basically combine Israel's military and the U.S.'s military, share like all our military secrets would just go to Israel, and they wouldn't need to officially pass bills in Congress funding Israel. It would be automatic. It's Israel trying to put in a backdoor so they keep on getting military support even if Congress stops being controlled by AIPAC.
Just because the U.S. Pentagon released this DIA Force Protection Condition D Delta critical doesn't mean they've done anything to stop what's happening. They've identified it. Have they stopped it? I don't know. Is Israel still spying on the phone calls of the president? Probably. So Israel probably knows just as much as Trump does. I don't think Trump is in any real negotiations or peace talks. Not according to Iran, not according to Hezbollah, not according to Pakistan. So is Israel...
He's in peace talks for the oil markets to keep everyone calm and pretend, yes, I'm doing something. That's why even if he's not in talks, which is probably the case, he's going to pretend that he is, because otherwise oil futures would shoot up, the treasury yields would shoot up, it costs a lot more for the United States to borrow. No. You have to pretend everything is fine. Yeah, in situations like this, otherwise there's panic.
Israel going to sit by and take that for his word? No, because they know it's not happening. So will Israel retaliate to this latest retaliation from Iran? Yes. Where they will strike, I do not know. But I think that Qasem Island and Karag Island and Bandar Abbas are definitely on the target list, because you don't have to fly deep into Iran. You can hit them hard and skedaddle back across the Persian Gulf, back into the umbrella, and land your F-35s. I wouldn't...
It's the safest places to hit. Qasem Island, by the way, is this right here. And I think he's talking about these other islands, too. And the good thing for Israel about hitting these islands is that's where Iran's air defenses are the weakest. Like I said, at the coast. You can't set up anti-air defenses on the water, or in this case, it would be more like anti-air. They're worried about their fighter jets being shot down. They fly anywhere deep into Iran, especially after the ceasefire, where I practically guaranteed that Iran has a lot more anti-air defenses, that Russia and China have boosted its ability to shoot down jets. So they're probably going to hit stuff along the edges of Iran and the coast.
I wouldn't fly them back to Tel Aviv if I were them. I'd take them south because we know where that next retaliation is going to come from. So when you look at this tit for tat and escalation, Israel, I think now is going to go their not entirely their own way, but they're going to do some things on their own, whether or not Donald Trump okays it or supports it or not. I mean, heck, the strikes in Beirut, though limited as they were, whether Donald Trump knew or not.
Yeah, Trump said he didn't know and didn't approve of the strike that Israel did on Beirut that sparked the retaliation from Iran. So they've already ignored Trump's orders and attacked Beirut. So I think Trump would have to put incredible pressure on Netanyahu to get him to not retaliate. And I don't know if he's willing to do that. And yep, in any case, if Trump allows Netanyahu to retaliate, it's going to cement the impression that, yes, Trump is Netanyahu's bitch.
Whether Donald Trump got the phone call as the jets were flying and say, "Hey, Donnie, by the way, I'm doing this." That's not knowing. That's getting told as it happens. Like, "Hey, here's a heads up." We did nothing to stop it, or if we knew and had a part of it and did nothing to stop it, well, that then shows that we're not interested in peace. That's how I map it in my mind.
It is true that if Trump had the ability to rein in Netanyahu, he probably would have done it at the Beirut strike level. It's a lot easier to convince Netanyahu to not strike Beirut than it is to convince him to not retaliate against Israel.
How likely do you think they are to strike the energy infrastructure of Iran? Because that would be very significant from an escalation.
That would be the nuclear, not actual nukes, but it would be the biggest escalation possible short of nukes.
True perspective. Well, we might see the same happening.
And apparently, according to the media, Netanyahu has already asked permission to bomb Iran's energy infrastructure. And of course, we said no, but will they listen?
In Israel's consideration. And back to the Israeli doctrine. Rise and kill first. Great source to read about Israeli doctrine. But we also know from Israel's previous wars and the Yom Kippur Wars, Six-Day War, Arab-Israeli Wars, that is their doctrine. We're about to go into a fight, hit hard, wipe out the Air Force, wipe out the Egyptian Air Force before they even get an airplane off the runway. Because then you achieve air superiority before the fight even starts. Hit Lebanon first. Hit Egypt simultaneously.
That is exactly what they did in Syria, Israel. When Assad fell, when the former ISIS jihadists took control of Syria, the first thing Israel did was they went in and bombed all of Syria's military installations. We don't know who this new guy is, but we're not going to take any chances. If they don't have any weapons, they can't attack us.
Simultaneously, dig in along the front and then strike. Rise and kill first. That is the Israeli doctrine. That is the Israeli strategy. That is what they're doing now. So in the midst of this retaliation, are they going to wait for Donald Trump to figure out some fake facade of a peace deal before they take more strikes and look even weaker? Or are they going to rise and kill first? They're going to strike. And I think it's going to be something significant. I don't think it's going to be in duration in terms of days or in terms of some massive armada, but it's going to be something specific and it's going to be something escalatory. Whether, again, that's Karag, Kashem, or maybe even energy facilities along the coastal region of Iran. Water purification plants.
And Iran has said it will hit 5 critical targets in other Gulf countries for every one of its own critical targets that are hit. So anything Israel hits in Iran, Iran will target Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, United Emirates, and destroy the same critical infrastructure in those places.
Electricity.
That is very significant if they go that far. But you don't think they worry about the consequences of the attacks? If Trump said no, so Netanyahu doesn't need Trump politically, but at the same time, not responding to Iran will be...
I will say that if Iran does do something that results in oil infrastructure in the Gulf getting destroyed, oh my God, are people going to be pissed at Israel? I mean, yes, a lot of people are pissed at Israel so far, but there's still a huge group of people that don't really care about what happens in international relations. There's that group all in every country around the world. Well, in that depression, it will be a depression if this scenario happens. Like, especially in Asia, oh my God, are they going to hate Israel because of how badly it's going to impact them? Like China, whatever. China is going to be rabidly anti-Israel because they can handle the closure of Strait of Hormuz. China, they've got reserves, and apparently they have barely used their huge oil reserves. But they do not have enough oil to last like 3 years until the Gulf gets rebuilt. So, yeah, you'd be dealing with a ticked-off China.
Be politically very damaging. So it's a bit
That's
of a
right.
tricky balance right here. Do I want to piss off Trump, which is politically damaging, or and not attack Iran, which is even more politically damaging? Sorry, piss off Trump and attack Iran, or not attack Iran, which is more politically damaging, and make Trump happy. So it's a difficult choice between the two. But isn't there more that Trump could do than just yell at Netanyahu and criticize him? Because I think from a political perspective, Netanyahu politically would benefit significantly more from striking Iran, obviously, and not making it seem like he's Trump's lapdog. Already his opposition, Naftali Bennett and other opposition leaders are talking about Netanyahu, like how this is going to be the time where he, focuses on the security of Israel rather than just listening to whatever the Americans want. So politically, he needs to attack
Yep.
Iran. The question is,
This is a tipping point where we really find out what is the exact relationship between Netanyahu and Trump by how Israel responds.
what can the U.S. do in response? What can Trump do in response if Netanyahu attacks Iran and jeopardizes, let's say there is peace negotiations, jeopardizes those possible or alleged peace negotiations?
Oh God, if I were Donald Trump right now, with my Secretary of State and my Treasury Secretary, both maybe not these two, but my Secretary of Treasury, my Secretary of the Treasury, my Secretary of State and my Secretary of Defense, and whoever my ambassador is to Israel. Again, not the current personalities, but those positions. I'd bring them into the Situation Room and I'd say, okay, as the Commander in Chief, as the President, here's what's happened. Here are my red lines. I'm telling you as my executor, my executive agents of the military, diplomacy, and the economy. Here's the levers. Here's where I stand. And if I were Donald Trump, I would direct immediately sanctions. Then I would direct the next level to that is we're not going to send you anything. We're not going to send you any more fuel. We're going to take all of our tankers out of Tel Aviv. We're not going to send you any more.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't put on the sanctions preemptively. The sanctions would be the threat of sanctions is if Israel doesn't listen to Trump. You can't sanction them before they do before they bomb Iran because they haven't done something wrong per se, according to Trump. You can prepare a sanction package against Israel that will be implemented if they strike Iran. That's what I would do.
More munitions, the faucet of death and destruction stops. Then we start looking at what is our diplomatic relationship and what should it be? You're spying on us. You don't listen to any allies. You're doing things irresponsibly. What do we do? All of the options that are on the table that have always been on the table.
The problem is Congress is still controlled by Israel, even if we entertain this scenario where Trump is trying to rein in Israel. Congress is still bought by AIPAC, and Congress will, if Trump turns on Israel, will try to preempt Trump and stop him from pressuring Israel. Given how powerful AIPAC's hold is on Congress, you might actually have the threat of impeachment against Trump if he tries to turn against Israel. That's how bad the situation in Congress is.
I don't know if Donald Trump is finally warming up to the fact that, maybe I got to start eating my vegetables instead of just dessert, and might have to start making some hard choices that he's not been willing to make. Right now, there are so many diplomatic, military, and economic actions in Donald Trump's hand. Why he won't? Only he knows. I don't know, but
it would also create all types of issues domestically to turn against Iran, because you have to understand the people that watch the evening news that are propagandized don't know anything about what's going on in Gaza, are marginally still pro-Israel. Yes, they feel somewhat bad for Gaza, but they would not understand Trump turning against Israel. Especially, we're winning this Iran war. Why does Trump need to turn against Israel and pressure Netanyahu? Don't we have, aren't the Iranians on the verge of surrendering completely? Why do we need to pressure Israel? That type of situation. Yeah, my God, Trump trying to actually pressure Netanyahu would be so difficult.
The options are there for sure, for sure. But what we've seen, if you're Israel and you're in Netanyahu's position, you've got something. You've got something that always brings Donald Trump back, regardless of how much you break his heart. There's something that always brings him back. Whether it's, hey, I'm going to do this. Don't do it. Oh, I did it anyway. What are you going to do? Fine.
Does he need?
I think what I'm assuming that it's not some type of blackmail material. I honestly believe they would have used that back in 2016 if it existed, like videos of Trump doing anything with underage girls, that type of stuff. They would have used that. They used everything they possibly could back in 2016. So why does Netanyahu have this pull? Well, AIPAC has a huge pull on Congress, and so of course it's going to have huge impact on Trump too, because Trump needs Congress. And Trump also took a huge amount of money from basically the Israeli lobby. And so Trump figures he's on the Israeli side. Then Netanyahu comes in, proposes a 3-day war against Iran, like Venezuela. It'll be an easy deal. And Trump just stupidly allows himself to get tricked into this absolute quagmire. And after he's tricked into the quagmire, his fate is entwined with Netanyahu, because he has to pretend this Iran war is a victory, went well. And so he's not allowed to get mad at Netanyahu, because otherwise people will ask, well, this Iran war is going so well, why are you mad with Netanyahu?
Yeah, does he need Congress to be able to? Does he need Congress to be able to sanction Israel?
Not necessarily, depending on the level of sanctions, depending on the direction of the sanctions, depending on what sanctions they are.
Thing is, if he did do sanctions unilaterally, without Congress, Congress could override them. That's the thing. It's a law from Congress that gives him the ability to put in these sanctions in the first place. The power of the purse is with Congress, and if AIPAC controls Congress as much as I think it does, I think it can preempt any sanctions against Israel.
For long. So here's the thing about the power of the president, the executor of the executive branch, as the commander in chief, but also as the president. Foreign policy falls on him. So in terms of sanctions, in terms of foreign policy agreements, he doesn't necessarily need Congress unless it's something that ties it to the legislative branch in terms of it becoming a law, or something that will then take unfunded money, new money that hasn't already been allocated. But essentially, again, the NDAA doesn't dictate by law each thing that has to be paid. It dictates by law, here's the amount of money appropriated. Once it's appropriated, can the executive branch, which is your Department of Defense, your Department of State, all under the president, can they then dictate changes to that without asking for new money? They absolutely can. That's why the War Powers Act really doesn't mean anything other than a symbolic gesture of, if you continue this, we're not going to give you any new funding. Okay, well, I've already got 169 billion from this current NDAA. I'll just take it from other things. And we're seeing that. So when you see, like for example, we're instead of refurbishing the Nimitz and sending it back down to the south to replace what we took out of the south to the central command, we're just gonna decommission it, because we're taking money from other things. Does the president have the authority to do that? He does. But as soon as he
that right there is an example of shrinkage of the U.S. military. That I said we have a legacy military that's been shrinking and shrinking and shrinking over time. This is a time we used to have 2,000 ships. Then it went down to 1,000 ships. Then it fell 700, 500, 400, and 300. That's today, 300. And it probably won't be long till it falls below that.
runs out of that and he wants to request new money, or he wants to request to put sanctions that may take out of our resources to enforce, well, then he does have to go to Congress.
Do you think we'll see that in our lifetime, the U.S. sanctioning Israel?
I hope so.
Within our lifetime? I'm hoping to live a long time, so yes.
Do you think we will?
Unfortunately, I do not think that we will. However, we have not yet seen the impact. Now, should we? I think we should. And
then again, I don't know how long the Israeli state's going to last at this rate. Well, it might, when U.S. support ends. U.S. support could end without sanctions being involved. So maybe I'll say less. Yeah, there is, other than sanctioning Israel, you could just end support, which would be the exact same thing. I still think there's a chance we'd sanction them at some point.
And this has nothing to do with Israel, any nation, any ally whom we have established clear red lines with of like, hey, we give you fuel, we give you bombs, we give you bullets, we give you political coverage, we give you diplomatic coverage, we give you our soldiers, we give you our assets, we give you our jets, we give you our planes, we give you our sons and daughters.
Yeah, a nation you give all this to, before you jump to sanctions, why don't you just stop giving them shit?
Don't do this. F you, I'm going to do it anyway. Doesn't matter if you're Israel or Timbuktu. We shouldn't continue to allow that. And the most direct thing you can do right up front before you sever relations or end a relationship or say we broke up, you give some boundaries. Hey, I'm putting sanctions, okay? And if that ally truly is an ally, they'll say, okay, well, we don't need you, we're no longer friends, or okay, let's talk. Those talk. I mean, it's clear that both Netanyahu and Israel Katz and other members of the Knesset and the representative political parties of Israel have already said, we're no longer going to listen to what Donald Trump says. We are not beholden to or on the leash of the United States.
But that's just political rhetoric. That's just them saying it because voters like to hear it. Doesn't mean, I don't know.
Sometimes
We have a ceasefire in Gaza, and
sometimes political rhetoric is true, unfortunately.
they're bombing Gaza.
That's my next question. Trump told FT that Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu will have no choice but to accept an Iran deal. I call the shots. Netanyahu doesn't call the shots.
This is Trump?
Ooh, yeah, the FT.
Okay.
Yeah, there is that. I think I already heard that statement beforehand, but whether it's true, how can Trump stop it if Netanyahu just decides to attack Iran anyway? It's not. There's no way for Trump to stop it in time. What's going to happen is still unclear.
When was this?
I just came in now.
So, yeah, we're either going to see the same old Trump, where he just barks and not only no bite but continues to give treats.
Yeah, Trump has barked a lot with regard to Iran in this entire Iran situation. That means making threats like, "We'll end your civilization," and then tacoing out the next day.
We're going to see Donald Trump with some bite, with some bark and maybe a little bite, or we're going to see Donald Trump just completely bark, bite, and walk away. I don't think this Donald Trump has the capacity to bark, bite, and walk away. I think he's going to bark.
I can't believe we're having a serious discussion about Iran. We're talking about bark, bite, and walk away.
And still give some treats.
And treats.
Netanyahu will have no choice but to accept an Iran deal. I call the shots. I call all the shots. Bibi does not.
You can tell it's a sore point for Trump, his ego, about all these accusations that, like, he's a slave to Israel or he's Netanyahu's bitch. Yeah, you could say that he does not like that. His ego does not like that. It might be true, but in any case, I know that he doesn't like it.
I've been saying this for a while, Anthony. I've been saying it from the early days of the war. I'm like, I really think Israel bit off more than it could chew, and this is all going to backfire on them. And it seems to be.
Oh, absolutely. Backfire on both Israel and the United States, unfortunately. And that's just the reality.
It seems to be happening, which would be extraordinary for the US. And this is one thing I've also been saying, and hopefully it develops, is that this is Trump's chance to turn this, foreign policy catastrophe into something very positive for the country, into a political win for his legacy as well, by being the president that really, really stands up to Israel and the Israeli lobby.
Yes, that would be one good thing. Unfortunately, I don't think it erases all the political damage from this. $6, $7 gas. Going into the midterms. Yeah, I don't think anything, even reigning in Israel, isn't going to... Why attack Iran in the first place? It doesn't erase that mistake.
More than Kennedy, more than Clinton, more than Reagan. I'm not saying he will, because that's a massive U-turn from where we were before.
Sure.
But I'm just saying, they did cause a big freaking shit show here.
I mean, the Israeli lobby, the neocons, and the Asmongold of the world, the regular people who just buy what mainstream media is spitting out, with unquestionably. Yeah, all of three of those groups should probably turn on Trump if he pressured Netanyahu and turned on Netanyahu. And those three groups are probably like 80% of what's left of his supporters. You'd have record low you're going to have record low poll numbers for a president by the end of this, no matter how it ends.
But I don't think he will unless they drag him back into this war. If Israel does something right now to sabotage the peace negotiations, I really think
Well, I think from a strategic
Probably.
sense, Israel wants that, because if Israel can drag the U.S. back in, they also get, it's pulling them. If you're drowning in quicksand, and your buddy is holding onto a vine and you can grab onto his leg, well, he's going to have to pull you out, because if you don't, you're going to pull him in.
Well, the other option is with the leg that he's not holding, you kick him so he falls into quicksand deep enough that he can't grab your leg again. That is also the option, but in this example, whether Trump is going to do that, I don't know. I don't think so.
So it's a paradox. It's a dilemma. And to your point, Donald Trump could go down in history, regardless of all the things that have happened, the Epstein files and all this other stuff. Donald Trump could still go down in American history and his legacy as the president that defended America, that put America first, that stood up to the thing that we all have already seen, and chart a new way for foreign policy and diplomacy with all countries, not just Israel. Will he?
Mainly Israel. There's not many countries that are really taking advantage.
Yes, it would be a big deal, but the economic crisis, I think we're practically guarantee it at this point, even if the Strait opens now. Given the amount of time it'll take to get actual oil flowing out of there and for it to reach the world, we're going to hit the breaking point where there's an actual shortages and a big price spike. I think we're just about at the point where that's unavoidable at this point. I don't mean just oil staying where it is pretty high, around 100. I think actually like going up to 200 in the physical market, maybe 150 in the futures market. I think that's nearly unavoidable at this point, and becomes more so every day the Strait of Hormuz stays closed.
Advantage of the U.S. near
No,
close as
what I'm
much as
saying
Israel.
is that the change in the relationship with Israel could open up pathways to relationships with other countries.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I misunderstood what you meant. Yes, there's a lot of countries. Iran. Well, let's use the most obvious example. There's been talks about part of the $300 billion fund being developed for Iran, and Iran would also allow U.S. companies to invest in Iran. That's being discussed right now, according to the New York Times. That's a long-term deal after the MOU, maybe under a future administration. Trump said when asked by...
There's going to be so many political fallouts from this war in terms of realignments of nations. Perhaps even de-dollarizations of parts of the world that decide that the United States isn't a reliable guarantor.
At the FT, what he would do if the deal with Iran failed on its merits. Trump told FT that he would consider a commando raid on Iran. What would a commando raid target? Is he talking about the enriched uranium to get it from there, or what is he talking about?
So again, I think this goes back to more so than ever with the pressure. So what I would say right now is that the tectonic plates have made that shift. We had a small seismic earthquake, and scientists are looking at this earthquake in diplomacy and saying, "Ooh, this could get bad." So Donald Trump is trying to prevent the next slip, or at least till after his administration, right? Like hold on to it until the next guy's in office. But in that,
That's a long time. That's 2.5 years. You can't do that.
he has to have a way out, even if tomorrow all the strikes stop. A beautiful.
There is no way out. There is no way out that preserves his presidency. That's the problem. That's why he's stalling. He's not signing the agreement because it would be suicide to sign the agreement. He's not escalating because it'd be suicide to escalate. He's just stalling. And he can only stall till about mid-July when the actual oil shortage in the physical market hits. And then it's game over.
Whole rainbow over the Strait of Hormuz emerges, and everybody's happy, and we're all looking for ways to be friends. There still has to be a negotiated settlement. There still has to be a treaty. There still has to be an end to this. And how does that all end? Donald Trump still has to have a way out. And he now knows that, well, darn, Israel's not going to stop in Lebanon, so I'm going to have to do something to stop it, at least politically. Maybe not militarily, but at least politically. I take this side on that. And then how do I figure out to show the domestic audience, the American people, that all of this was worth it? Because leaving with Israel saying F off, Israel spying on us, Israel bombing Lebanon, nothing happening that's any good for anybody in Gaza, the Strait of Hormuz under Iran's control, and hey, bro, here's a sticky note. I owe you X pounds of depleted uranium, but I'm going to give it to China. That is a loss for
Exactly. That's why Trump is so screwed.
the big L. So,
And it's not. We're not even talking about the possibility that Iran already has nukes and is on the verge of testing one. That would. Oh my God. There's so much political damage from this Iran war that has yet to come to Trump.
how does Donald Trump achieve some modicum of success
He
and to the
can't.
American people,
He can't.
that is Iran won't have a bomb. So
They might already have a bomb.
is Donald Trump looking at the potentiality of a commando raid to go in to take the
I will agree with this point. That is the one thing that Trump is focusing on, preventing Iran from having a bomb, because that is the one thing he could still realistically achieve if he negotiated it and Iran decided to give it up, which they were willing before the war started. Theoretically, he could still get that. The problem is, at this point, if the reports are right, Iran already has a bomb, and he's failed there too. And if that's the case, he won't have anything to point to, any argument, any justification for this war at all. It will be a disaster for him.
uranium to take the war off his plate, to say Israel, Iran, whatever, you do you, I'm out. He has to have that. We already know, or we have very good.
And the only way for him to have hope to have that is to rein Israel in Lebanon so that a deal can be made.
Indication that this commando raid has already been planned. It's on the table. There's a con-op. I don't know. Call it Iranian fury. I don't know. Whatever they have it called. There's a name. There's a concept. It's on the shelf. It's on the table. The Central Command
To capture the enriched uranium, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Now again, will we capture enough? Will it be an actual success? Maybe not.
And does Iran have some somewhere else? Do we know where all of it is? Because it sure sounds like they've already weaponized some of it.
It just has to look like it.
Trump also told the FT that Israel would have no choice. Oh, no, this is not it. He told FT that Iran's attack on Israel will have no effect on the negotiations. He said the strikes are one of those things that have been going on for 3,000 years or 47 years, depending how you count. So he's dismissing this attack and saying the negotiations are ongoing.
He's dismissing an attack on Israel. This wasn't not the same as like the attack on Kuwait, U.S. bases in Kuwait. This is an attack on Israel, and he's trying to dismiss it. Netanyahu can't dismiss it. It'd be amazing if he actually does manage to prevent Netanyahu from striking Iran. That would really show that it really is Netanyahu that's Trump's bitch.
We've seen that happen time and time again, where something happens, whether strikes on Kuwait, Bahrain, strikes on the UAE, strikes on Israel. Iran seems to strike everywhere, and as long as it doesn't kill American servicemen, Trump is just going to dismiss it and try to get some sort of resolution. What do you make of his statement to FT saying, I call the shot? When asked, what do you say? Netanyahu will have no choice but to accept an Iran deal. I call the shots. I call the shots. I call all the shots. Bibi does not. Why would Trump say that?
Sounds like a desperate man. Sounds like someone that wants to get the message out there.
Yes, that does sound like a desperate man. I agree with that.
That he's in control. I mean, he said it like 9 times. I mean, is that what we're actually seeing in reality? No. But the fact that he's so adamant about having to reassert that, it's like if someone comes in like, hey, I know karate. Okay, no one asked. Like we're doing pottery. Yeah, but I know karate. Okay, can you stop saying that? Like go sit down. Like we don't care. But I just want everybody to know that I know karate, and if I have to do it, I will. And everyone's like, okay, man, sit down. Stop saying you know karate. We're not doing karate right now. We're trying to do diplomacy. And he's like, okay, just so you know, I'm in charge. Okay, that's fine.
Yep.
And then you find out that not only is he bragging about the wrong sport, like he came to the wrong place. He's like, oh man.
And if Israel does strike Iran, despite all this, it's just going to make him look stupid.
Man. Oh, I'm supposed to be down the street. Sorry. Supposed to be down there. My bad. Sorry. So he's not in control. And he continues to say he's in control. Well, like I said, Iran doesn't think he's in control. Hezbollah doesn't think he's in control. Hamas doesn't think he's in control. Israel doesn't think he's in control. So who thinks he's in control? Donald Trump. Donald Trump has become the modern Don Quixote. He is chasing windmills. And everybody's laughing.
And also, he has to pretend he's winning. He has to say he's winning. He has to say he's in control because that's what his base wants. That's the image. This Iran war is a complete victory, and I'm in control of everything. Netanyahu's answers to me. That is what he has to say, whether it's true or not.
Are you following the Armenian elections? It's very, very important elections that's happening. A big struggle between the West. So Armenia.
Oh yeah, that was. I think Armenia is about to get fucked over. Well, check in on that later.
Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan, I know it very well. I interviewed his opposition leader as well a few months ago now, a couple of months ago. He declared that the Civil Contract Party has won the elections and will form the new government alone. By the way, just for the audience, this is an extremely important election because a big power struggle between Russia.
Basically, Armenia is the new Ukraine. It's a country that's about to be fucked over by a Western puppet and throw away their economy, their prosperity, and might even cease to exist as a country, like Ukraine is about to, or is headed towards, because it's in a very dangerous area of the world. It's right up here between Iran, Russia, Turkey. By the way, you see this here? Azerbaijan is here, but this here is also Azerbaijan. And so you have this little strip that divides Azerbaijan. They're not happy about that. They want that strip. And the only reason they haven't taken that strip is basically security guarantee by Russia, saying don't do that. And they're about to fuck over Russia and try to join the EU and break their trade union with Russia, having devastating effect on the economy, forcing all Armenians in Russia to go home, and basically losing protection of the Russian military. And this territory is about to be gobbled up by Azerbaijan taking this. Turkey may be taking a little bit of this. Turkey and Azerbaijan are enemies of Armenia, actually enemies. And that's why this new leader of Armenia is basically, he's probably going to get very rich in this process, but of selling out his country.
And Europe and the US.
Yes.
For a very strategically important country which has the Belt and Road Initiative, the corridor going through it.
There's a lot of Russian pressure on this election. And, the ruling party, Armenia has a parliamentary system, much like the United Kingdom.
But the EU recently gave 15 million euros to, quote unquote, secure the elections. So to make sure that they go the right way. And so I'm pretty sure they will, in terms of the wrong outcome for Armenia.
So in that, from what I understand, like the latest earlier today is that the current ruling party is leading.
Yeah, he's saying he won. Yeah,
Are they saying he won? I know if
he's saying he won. He won. Oh, he was in the lead. I didn't check.
Well, a few hours ago he was in the lead. I don't have they said he won?
Yeah, I didn't know that. He's saying he won, and your phone was.
Oh, he's saying he won.
Alone.
As reported by Politico and Sova and others a few hours ago, the ruling party was in the lead. I don't know if they declared a winner yet.
Yeah, Russia won't be happy. He's declaring himself a winner, but Russia won't be happy. Interesting.
He better not drink anything in the next 12 hours.
By the way, the mistake Russia made in terms of Ukraine is when there was that coup, a Western-backed coup that overthrew the democratically elected president, they basically let the United States install a puppet in Ukraine and let Ukraine ban all pro-Russia parties in Ukraine. If you're politicians, any party that says anything good about Russia, you get banned. So, of course, the government is rabidly anti-Russian and has been turned into a weapon to use against Russia. And that's the boot that how we got into this Ukraine war. So the mistake Russia did was not to interfere at the start when there was this coup. It would have been far less costly in terms of life, both Ukrainian and Russian, if Russia had just gone in, gotten rid of those Western-backed protesters, or the anarchists, the ones that were shooting with a sniper rifle at protesters. Yeah, the bad guys. Gotten rid of those, put the democratically elected president back in power, and then we would have avoided so many deaths.
Test his food.
Then if they don't do something like that in Armenia, well, you're going to have another Ukraine. People of Armenia fucked over for Western interests.
Always a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for jumping on and giving us the analysis.
Of course,
appreciate it.
Anytime, and I appreciate it, and thank you for continuing the discussion.
Thank you, man.
Yep, that was a great video. And before I end this section, let's have a little check-in. I've been glancing at Twitter to see if there was any news of an Israeli attack on Iran. And so far there isn't, but I did see some videos that might be worth looking at. Again, take these videos with a grain of salt because you never know with the age of AI. But in any case, there were 15 missiles fired at Israel. All right, well, this will be on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Come watch on Kick or Twitch, and I'll see you next video. Bye.